We've actually played a lot of Season 2, and we know exactly what is meta, what is broken, and what is completely unplayable. That's why going into Season 3, these are the buffs, nerfs, and reworks that I, as an Overwatch coach, would suggest we make to create a more dynamic and interesting meta, nerf some of the super overperformers, and buff some of the rather weaker characters that haven't really seen consistent play. Now we have 5 different major categories: buff, nerf, rework, a team up change, or no change at all, and we're gonna break it right down. But definitely smash that subscribe button, check out my Twitch because I just hit partner in the links down below, and come say hi. And 30 days of free coaching is still available in the Marvel Rivals Academy. Check it all out in the links down below, but let's jump in. So the first character we're gonna talk about is Cap, and I do think that Cap overall is in a better state than he was before. He's strong, like he can still get value, especially when he's enabling another mobility heavy DPS, and he can still be that menace in the backline that almost never dies. But there are less scenarios where he's like alive forever, unable to be interacted with, constantly stalling the cart. So I think he's in a reasonable state. The only thing that I really think he needs a change going into Season 3 has to do with his team up. I think the Bucky Cap team up is a little awkward. One of the reasons why it's awkward is because the characters just don't really synergize. Like, Bucky wants to play around a front line. He typically wants to pull people in, and then the tanks like collapse on them, so he's like getting Groot walled or Magneto's body blocking, and he has a shield to play around. So it doesn't really fit. Like, you can definitely make it work, and it's a powerful team up, but it doesn't really synergize that well together as far as the character playstyles is concerned. And I think that a lot of Captain America players would prefer having the team up with Thor previously, and I really want to see something like just a lot more unique and interesting around Cap. Give him an ability that he can use with a certain team up, where maybe he throws a shield and protects somebody. Maybe it's similar to the team up he has now, but he gets to initiate the jump onto somebody and protect them, kind of like the Thing jump. I think there's a couple of different things that you could do. Increase his mobility, increase his ability to play make, something along those lines. But, you know, get rid of the team up with Bucky, I think is a reasonable thing for Season 3. Next up, we do have Emma Frost, and Emma Frost did get nerfed quite substantially, but it's still clear that she's incredibly powerful. She's one of the most powerful characters in the game. We look at pro meta, and she's been banned a ridiculous amount of times, the most out of any other character. And in ranked play, she's just an all-star. I think she's just really, really powerful and kind of warps the meta around her in a lot of ways. Now, you could say that perhaps she needs some type of fundamental change, but I think that there is merits to her kit overall. I would just probably see some small nerfs in cooldowns. So like maybe her cooldowns are slightly longer. Perhaps the shield has slightly less health. Perhaps the ultimate's slightly longer to generate. You could do some of these smaller things because I think her kit as is in a reasonable state. It's just a bit overtuned, so we don't need to change anything fundamental about the character. Just down tweak some of the numbers just slightly. Give some other tanks some more room to see play. Some dive tanks. There's a lot of tanks that are just getting hard countered by Emma. Reel her back in a bit. Let some of those tanks actually see meta play a little bit more. So I'm going to say nerf. Not a crazy nerf, just small nerfs across the board. The next up, we have Hulk. I really do think that Hulk is in a fine state. He's in an okay state. He's actually seeing a good amount of play. He's not overpowered or dominant, but I would really like to see a team up change to the character. And here's a couple of the things I think would make sense. I think one, give him some power individually when he has the team up. So instead of constantly giving other people gamma, give him something, some extra ability, some extra movement, some extra something. Like, let him kind of benefit more from the team up. I think one of the things you need to think about with team ups is that there's someone that just gets a static benefit and then someone else that gets like an active, interesting benefit, right? Doing the active, interesting thing is more fun than just having the passive benefit, right? So I think something along that lines. Hulk has been like an enabler of other characters for a very long time, and let's find a team up that can enable him instead. And then in addition to that, I think that Hulk gets like unfairly banned almost because of the team up. And so if you even like remove the team up, I think removing the team up for Hulk would have him seeing more play actually, because he would get through the banning phase, than keeping the team up that he has, or keeping powerful team ups that enable other people. So I think we should have a change up team up, a completely different team up that enables him, or no team up at all. One of the two, in my opinion. Okay, Thor is just in a weird state. Okay, so they did the awakening cancel change, and while I think this is actually a legitimate buff, one of the problems with being able to cancel awakening is that if you like pop it kill someone right away, let's say you use 2 lightning bolts to kill someone right away, and then you cancel it, well, you don't have any more Thor Force. You can't move around anymore. So like if you want to get Thor Force back, you have to throw your hammer. Someone needs to be within range, or you have to manually hit somebody. Someone needs to be in range again. That's not always the case, and sometimes you're kind of sitting in the open and then you just get fried, right? So I think that they are kind of missing the mark with this entire rework / change that they've done to Thor, changing his alternate fire, removing the animation cancel, making it so that it doesn't take or use his awakening or his Thor Force. It's all really pushing Thor in a direction that I think people just didn't really like. Like, people liked having lots of survivability, lots of freedom, lots of flexibility, the ability to play Thor as like a diver or sometimes a poker, sometimes a brawler, and now he's like moved heavily into the poke category. And to me, I think that you have to do either 2 things. I think you could do the first thing. I like this less, but it's like kind of a band-aid fix. And it's if you cancel his awakening within a fast enough time frame, he gets like a Thor Force back. Or maybe you pop awakening and it uses 1 Thor Force and then it slowly deteriorates the other one. So if you like cancel it, you'll still have Thor Force left. So you could do plays like drop into the enemy backline, pop your awakening, lightning bolt someone, kill them, cancel, fly away. Like, that's what we want to be able to do. We can't do that. Not really, unless there's other people around and you have to like think and process and hit your cooldowns, and it is just a lot to it that makes it hard to not flow well. But I actually think the better solution here is to rework the character back to what he was. I think before these changes, Thor players really enjoyed the character. Everyone knew that he was weak, everyone knew that he was underpowered, but they liked the ability to animation cancel on equipment, animation cancel on people, burst them down. You're instantly gonna get that Thor Force back. You could move around a lot and you could get out a lot of situations without dying. And I think in that state, that survival heavy state, the flexibility of movement state, it was a good position for Thor, but there were a couple of buffs they could do from there. Like, he was underpowered there, and their solution was to buff and nerf him and change him entirely. Instead, we could have just had an ultimate that you could cancel, an ultimate that moves faster movement base speed, even more survivability, slightly more damage on the ultimate. I think there's a lot of little things that they could have done to the character in the old version to make him more fun to play and work better and stronger, but instead they took him in a completely different direction, and I just think that that was a mistake. So I'm gonna put him in the rework tier here. Now, next up is Groot. This is a character that I've been playing a lot and enjoying a lot lately, especially because he's not banned like every single game now. And I think the nerfs actually opened him up to actually seeing play. And as long as you ban that really frustrating Wolverine, you can definitely have a good time on this character still. He's a very strong character that forces a brawl. And I don't really think that there's any major reason to change him in any meaningful way. Like, you could buff him a little bit. I think you buff him too much, and then all of a sudden he's getting banned all the time. I don't think he needs nerfs. He's in a reasonable spot where he's really strong, especially on certain choke points, but he's not dominant. His ultimate's really strong. Everything about him I think is good. I think his character kit still flows really well. Powerful ultimate, just all around. I think the meta doesn't favor him that much right now, and like I said, there are some really frustrating counters. The other thing I can see potentially doing to this character is give him a team up, some type of enabled team up, you know, some type of combo synergy he could do, you know. Maybe it's Groot and Human Torch, something random when you have flaming walls that do extra damage to people around them or whatever. I don't know what it is, but some type of cool team up would be nice. Some type of fun team up, new ability where you can synergize 2 characters together. But other than that, I just really think no change. So I'm going to put no change, but I want to keep it open for like maybe a cool synergy would be nice. Next is Magneto, and Magneto is one of the strongest characters in the game. He has a really powerful ultimate. He has a really powerful crowd control. He has good usage on his bubbles, good shields. I really don't think that there is anything that needs to be changed about Magneto. I think all around, he's just a really strong character. The only thing that's a bit frustrating about playing Magneto is sometimes your ultimate is so far behind. Like, other characters are getting their ultimate way before you, and then you can't kill that Cloak and Dagger roll. You can't eat that Ironman roll. You can't stop the Punisher roll because you're at 80%, 70%, and they already have it. I think that that's probably fair just because Magneto is a character that gets to do everything else so well, and I don't think we could just keep constantly buffing the character that is like one of the best characters in the game. That being said, I think that the team up, the Emma Frost team up, is just such a loser compared to like his old team up with Scarlet Witch. Everyone still talks about the team up with Scarlet Witch where he has his sword and he's like, you know, smacking people from range, doing a ton of damage. People love that team up. People still talk about that team up. Something chaos, metallurgic chaos or whatever. they love that team up. They love it. And then this new team up, this Emma Frost team up, just feels kind of bland. You pop it, you can do double bubble. You pop it, you can do a little more damage. It's whatever. It just doesn't really feel that interesting to me. So I would like to see a change in that team up, a removal of that team up, and give them something else more interesting. Or bring back some of the fun ones. Bring back the Scarlet Witch one would be cool. Maybe in the future sometime they're gonna have like a special season where they bring back all of them. That would be cool. But yeah, so I'm gonna say team up change is the main one. Other than that, no major changes for Magneto, I think is fair. Now, moving to the next one, we have The Thing. The Thing is kind of his weakest right now that he's been in a long time. The state's not great for him. While he does have good matchup against Double Shield, he doesn't have any good way to fight flyers, to do anything about flyers, and he can be an anti-diver, but dive is weak as well. So there is some merit to just say that, hey, the character's not seeing a lot of play because his strengths are just not there. And that's just it. Like, he just doesn't have those core strengths right now. When we're in a different meta, he'll be better, right? You could say that. I think that is all reasonable. I think that the character can be strong. I understand his strengths. Maybe you could see a slight buff in the range of his grab. I could see that where he can jump back to his team a little bit further. I think that could be cool because you could jump in with the diver a bit more, jump out. You could play him with a bit more flexible compositions. That would be the main one I want to see if there is some change, is just an increase in that range. I think one of the most frustrating things about playing The Thing is when you're not playing him with a traditional frontline tank. You are like, you know, you're in the enemy team, you're slamming in, you turn around and your team is way too far away. You can't jump to anybody. Having something like that might be better. You got to be careful though, because if he can just always jump out, he might be too strong. But I think in the way that the meta is moving with a lot of pokers and long distance characters, I think that is reasonable. So I'm going to say a buff, just a small one to the range of his jump to a teammate. Okay, now we have Venom, and Venom's actually in a reasonable state. Like, he's fine. After the Spider-Man team up, I think that the character is still good, especially when you play him with like a Magneto and a Star-Lord, where Magneto can bubble in the Venom and Star-Lord can follow up, stuff like that. And overall, I think the character can be good. We're kind of in an anti-dive poke meta, and I think nerfs to some of the DPS I suggest will kind of move us away back into a more dynamic meta, diverse meta. But the one thing I'll say is that the team up that he has right now with specifically Jeff is like, it's fine. It's just very rarely used, and it's not particularly good in my opinion compared to other team ups that he had. So I would say just a different team up, most likely. I mean, nothing fancy here. I think Venom is good and he can be good. Just meta changes will help him, and a different team up would be nice for the character. Now, we still have two more tanks, and Peni is one that I wanted to talk about. Peni is a character that is very, very strong in certain situations and weak in others. She's not great at taking space. She's really, really good at denying space, so she's really good at holding down certain choke points. The symbiote map, she can just lock that down with the rocket synergy. And I think that the rocket synergy is cool, but perhaps too strong. I think it's better now that they've nerfed it. There are just a lot more frustrating moments up against Peni, where Peni just kind of doesn't die, denies so much. She completely denies every composition besides poke. Like, Penny is really good against brawl, really good against dive. So maybe she's a really polarizing character, and that's one of the things that I said like a long time ago when Peni wasn't that good in the meta. I was like, this is a character that I know when she is good, people are going to be really frustrated. Like, she's a character that I almost feel like it's better if she's niche. She's a character that should be good in her spots and good with mastery, but should not be just good for everyone to just lock in and play. Even when they don't really know what they're doing, just playing the character super strong. So what does that actually look like to the character? I don't know. I think maybe the team up is a bit too powerful. Maybe you should give her a different team up instead. I personally would like to see a team up that doesn't just give her two freaking like generators, right? Just double downing on what she already does well and just make it even more powerful. Why not give her something completely unique, something completely different, something that challenges her mechanically in a different way, something that maybe the team up helps her fight on attack, maybe fight when you're being on the offense, because she's a character that is pretty weak on offense. So maybe an ability that helps her take space instead of another ability that helps her deny space, right? Basically what this team up did is just like, hey, you're good at these things, we're just gonna make you even better at the things you're already good at. Why not give her a team up that makes her good at the things that she's not good at? I don't know. That's just my take. I think that would be really interesting. So I'll say team up change, but I don't think that she's broken or oppressive or anything like that. So maybe small nerfs to the team up she has, or different team up altogether. I'll let you be the judge of that. Now, the last tank that we got to talk about on this list is definitely Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange has moved into a much better spot than he's been in a long time. A very long time. Now the character all of a sudden is seeing a lot of play. He's good at actually contesting high grounds, contesting flyers. He's good against poke. He has a really powerful ultimate still. Of course, TP is very, very important and very strong. There's a lot about him that's good. There's a lot about Strange that's good. And I don't really know if there needs to be any major changes to this character, to be honest. And the reason I say that is because I think other characters perhaps need to be reeled down in line a little bit instead of Strange being super buffed. But I could see a world where you slightly buff him. So in my opinion, I think you could either minorly buff the character, minorly buff his damage, minorly buff his AoE. Maybe you bring back his ability to kill supports more reliably through ultimate. Maybe that's a little too broken. You'll be the judge of that. But I do think that he doesn't need like a crazy change because his power level is within reason, I will say. Perhaps, once again, a team-up change where he gets the benefit instead of giving the benefit to other people. I'm going to say a small buff to the character, so I'll put him in buff. Just very minor, but I do think he's in a good spot right now. He's very powerful. Now we're moving on to the DPS, and the first character, of course, is Black Panther. This one's kind of hard to place. I'm not going to lie to you. And one of the things that I have learned throughout just the way that the devs talk about balancing Black Panther and the community like reception of Black Panther at large is that he's a character that the devs are scared to make too strong. Like, he's obviously weak and obviously has bug problems. A lot of the bug problems actually did get fixed in this season. There was like some silent patches that went out that fixed some of his bugs and no regs. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So the character is in a better state than he's been in before. But I think one of the problems that have the devs not wanting to make him too strong is because he's a character that can be very frustrating and unfun to play against for certain people. Now, you might be saying there's ways to counter him, swap, and a million ways to shut him down, and that could be true, but that's not gonna make them want to buff him because the community reception is just kind of really reactionary, if I'm being honest. Like, we saw the same thing with Spider-Man, where people just kind of freaked out, complained about Spider-Man, and it got Spider-Man nerfed, and it got a lot of dive characters nerfed because people were frustrated with dive. Now, a lot of people, myself included, were saying there's a ton of ways to counter dive. There's a ton of ways to shut down dive. There's a ton of ways to shut down Spider-Man, but the reality of it is that that is something that is asking too much for a lot of people to do, and they would rather just complain online. Now, I'm not going to get into it too much here about complaints and what complaints should be listened to and stuff like that, but I will say that the devs are afraid, I think rightfully so, about Black Panther. They understand how strong this character can be and how frustrating he can be to play against. So I believe they're going to keep him in a weakened state. That's just what I believe. Now, is that fair? I don't really think so. I think if you looked at it you just looked at Black Panther, I think it's reasonable that he actually gets some sort of buff. Most notably, I think the buff that I would give him is that if his cooldown, like his dash cooldown, gets canceled, I think perhaps you get like half of it back. Like, it doesn't fully make your cooldown go on cooldown. So like if you get dashed and then you get pushed by Invisible Woman mid dash, you don't just lose your entire dash. You know, now you're stuck at half, right? So you could still get out potentially. Or you have some other, I think one suggestion I saw a creator talk about is that they allow you to increase the power of your primary if you have comboed off a lot. You have like a rage meter, kind of like Wolverine, and then your primary does a bit more damage so that, you know, you have something that you get rewarded by at the end of a giant combo. Maybe it's swipes or whatever the case may be. I could see both those arguments. I could also see a team-up change where we see a different team-up instead of Black Panther with Magik. That team up is actually really, really strong. The problem is it's not as used and obvious, right? You need two DPS players both playing Magik and Black Panther, and honestly, Magik's best playstyle is more of a brawl playstyle. She can dive in with you, but it's just hard to get the team up set up. I think if you synergize Black Panther with one of the meta supports or a meta tank or a dive tank, then all of a sudden it's easier to get that to run, right? Like if Black Panther had a team up with, let's just say, I don't know, Mantis or Luna Snow, then all of a sudden you could actually get that team up pretty reliably and consistently, and it would be pretty good. Or maybe with the tank, like a dive tank, like a Black Panther Cap team up. Or maybe we have a freaking, I don't know, a Venom Black Panther team, or whatever it is, right? You could come up with something interesting. So I think there's a lot of ways to move him around. Interesting team-ups, slight changes to his kit, but nothing that's going to make him too strong. And I think that's really the secret, is give him some reward that rewards really, really tight Black Panther play, but don't make that reward easily accessible to players that just play Black Panther without high levels of skill. I really do think that you have to reward the skillful play and maybe even rework him in a way slightly that increases the skill ceiling of the character and only provides extra value to the people that are close to that skill ceiling. Otherwise, if everyone just all of a sudden becomes good at Black Panther and they're just taking over lobbies, it's gonna just create a meta that people are really frustrated with. I think that that's the best way to put it. Not entirely fair, but it's just the way it is. I'm gonna put him in the rework tier though because of some of the ability reworks I suggested. Okay, Black Widow. I think Black Widow's actually in a good spot. That's kind of weird to say. I don't really think you can buff her any more than this without making her broken. I don't think you can give her a one-shot headshot. I really don't think you can fundamentally change her kit either. The only thing that you could probably do to make Black Widow better at this point is make Mantis more meta. And we'll talk about Mantis. Don't worry, we'll get to Mantis. I do think Mantis deserves some pretty serious buffs. But honestly, for Black Widow, I'm going to say no change to her directly. I also think the team up with Punisher is actually really good. Hawkeye is another character that I think is actually fine. This is going to be a hot take, but I do think that Hawkeye is fine. I think in his state, especially after the nerf with the synergy between Luna Snow, it's nowhere near as powerful as it was before. Hawkeye is strong, but he has key vulnerabilities. Like, he has weaknesses. He's a really strong poker, but there are dive characters that can counteract him. And I really do think that enabling more dive characters or more flexible, you know, mobility heavy tanks, people like Venom and Cap and Thor and Hulk, and then some mobility heavy DPS and potential dive DPS will make Hawkeye weaker, like, as a result. And I think overall, I think Hawkeye is actually in a good spot. This one might be the most controversial one on the list, and this comes from someone that doesn't play Hawkeye at all. I don't play him at all. I lose some games to him every once in a while, but Hawkeye is a character that I think can be countered more by the meta than, you know, anything else. Like, he plays well into this meta right now, but in a different meta, he has weaknesses, like really vulnerable weaknesses. Remember, he has no great mobility. He's not running away from you. And I think Hela is a character that has way better counterplay against her counters than Hawkeye does when both of them have similar strengths in that long distance ranges. So anyways, I'm putting him in no changes. And then we got to move over to Hela. And yeah, this character deserves a nerf. I'm sorry. This character has been deserving a nerf for a long time. This character has been busted for a very long time. I really think that she's actually tiers above Hawkeye as far as power level. Of course, you're not going to be able to access that without great aim, but really from Hela just being kind of the entire package to being able to run away, so she's good at creating separation. She has a really powerful CC, can cancel a TP, can cancel an ultimate, can kill somebody. She has a really powerful ultimate. She has high burst damage. Now, what is to be done to the character to make her more reasonable, more back in line? I honestly just think slight nerfs to the character makes sense. Just some slight cooldown nerfs would probably make sense. And basically what this does is you either make it more rewarding for people that are hitting the crits, or you make it more rewarding for people that are hitting the body shots, but still weakening the other aspects of her. And I really think that you probably should make it so that people have amazing aim, they still get rewarded. So I wouldn't nerf headshot damage too much or anything like that. But I could see a world where body shot damage specifically doesn't do as much. So if you're not hitting crits, you're kind of going to lose some duels that maybe you wouldn't have lost. But I think better than all those changes is just slight nerfs to maybe the cooldowns of the crowd control cooldown. I think it was weird how they made that shorter and then they make the flight longer. Make the crowd control shorter as well. Make it so that her ultimate takes a little bit longer to build up. I think those could be some reasonable changes to the character overall. Next up is Human Torch. Human Torch is actually in a decent spot right now. I don't think that he's broken anymore. I think after the nerfs that we just recently got, he's in an okay spot where he is strong and he has really strong situations, but he's not like this must ban. He's not super oppressive. I do think that some of the movement text is a little wacky, like constantly meleeing the air and having this crazy headshot hitbox manipulation is just kind of wacky a little bit. Maybe it does add some movement complexity to the character, but it's just a little strange because it's just something that only he can do. But other than that, I think the character is fine. I think he's actually just in a fine spot. And the only thing I would really change is that we change the Storm, Human Torch, Fire, NATO. It's once again just kind of the same type of thing as the Jeff one. The Jeff one's just way stronger and more reliable. So I think it's a little redundant. I think it's a little weak. I think it's a little not needed anymore. And I honestly think it's probably going to get removed, but I would say that it does need to get removed. Give him something else. Give him a different thing. There's a lot of interesting things you can do with adding fire to something. We just talked about the fire Groot walls. You could give Hawkeye flaming arrows. Don't do that, but you could. You could give Magneto a flaming ultimate, you know, a flaming ball of fire. There's a lot of flaming stuff you could do, right? So, like, let's give that to someone else. Let's create a cool team up. Let's do something along those lines. Okay, next up is Ironfist. I'm gonna say delete this hero. This is just my personal bias. I hate this fucking hero. No, you probably need to buff this hero, okay? Like, he's in a really weakened state. I will say that I lose more to this hero than any other hero when he's strong, and even when he's weak, I still lose to him. But the reality of it is, he got hit a bit too hard. Now, I'm not saying buff him like crazy. I think that they should just reel some of those numbers up, push them up slightly, right? Let's not do this thing that we always do every time it's a season 3 or a big patch where there's an overcorrection. There's always an overcorrection. That's what we're seeing with Iron Fist, where Iron Fist was really good and they're like, okay, fuck it, let's super nerf the character. Well, now he's really bad. Okay, let's super buff the character. Oh, now he's really broken. Like, we can do small buffs and nerfs. I kind of like what they've done with Strange, where it's just little minor things here and there. Now, granted, some of those minor nerfs are probably too much, but the idea is that you take small steps. You don't take large steps. You don't do something just insane. Keep the insane stuff for the team-ups. Just buff him slightly, buff some of the cooldowns slightly, and buff his cooldown recharge rate slightly. You know, buff some of those numbers back, because I think, you know, he got like 4 major nerfs. He probably only needed 2 of them. Buff some of those things, put him in a reasonable state, don't overdo it, and then adjust from there. If it's not enough, we can buff him more later. Iron Man is in a good spot. Iron Man's really, really strong. He's really, really dominant. He has a lot of really powerful engagements. He has a lot of really powerful plays. His synergy with Ultron's really strong. And I'm going to say that it's actually strong to a reasonable amount. I think Iron Man has really strong strengths, and he can shut down ultimates and things like that, but it's not free, right? He's in a fixed position. He probably needs to be bubbled or something along those lines. If you really wanted to nerf Iron Man at all, I think you could probably make it so he gets slightly less overhealth when he activates his E, his beam. Other than that, I think he's actually in a reasonable spot. I think he's good. Maybe the Ultron Iron Man synergy is too strong, or the two of them together too strong, or maybe they want to move away from a flyer meta. I can see a world where they really give strong nerfs to a lot of flyers in general, but I don't really think Iron Man needs anything crazy. I don't really think so. I think small nerfs is what I would say, if anything. Nothing that's massive. Now that I think about it, though, maybe slightly longer to build ultimate, or we could do a slightly long to fire ultimate, you know, a little bit slower. I'm gonna say nerf. It's weird because Iron Man creates a situation where I think it's good that there's more meta characters that counter defensive ultimates, because I think defensive ultimates overall are a little too strong. We're going to talk about some nerfs to those things in a second, but in a world where defensive ultimates are this strong, I do like meta counters to them, you know, around, but I think the better solution is just to make those defensive ultimates not as strong, to be honest with you. But I want to hear your opinion on that down below. Okay, Magik, I'm going to say buff on this character. Another character that I don't really play, but I do think that Magik is... She's strong, but the meta hasn't really favored her. And I would like to see maybe a bit more play to her when the meta is not perfectly favored her. So like maybe slightly less reduced cooldowns on her dash or her sword throw, where she could throw a projectile, maybe slightly bigger projectile. I think some of the things that allow her to be a bit more of an assassin, right? Because right now, like, she plays a really good brawler, but we're not in a brawl meta. So then she has to play like this, like, isolated dueler 1v1er, but like against flyers, it's difficult. And I think if you can just enable some of those things, give her more mobility because it's on a lesser cooldown, I think that's all like a step in the right direction. Nothing crazy here, just small changes, but I think that would be cool to make her see more meta play and be able to play into more dynamic metas than she can right now, instead of being kind of one-dimensional. Next up is Wolverine. And this character is a nerf, and he's actually a borderline rework for me. One of the things that we have kind of found out as the season kind of played out, everyone kind of forgot how broken Wolverine is. He's insane. His ultimate's one of the best ultimates in the game. It can kill through so many defensive ultimates. He's just really, really strong at farming any tank. Like, just being able to farm any tank, where he can grab a tank and kidnap them all the way back, just completely delete a tank. between his health and his overhealth, he's just so hard to deal with and just so powerful. I do really think he needs a nerf. The first thing that I would do is, this one might be a bit controversial, but I don't really think that we should have this rocket jump. Like, I understand that the rocket jump is fun to be able to use it, grab the rocket beacon jump and just be able to jump, but Wolverine's abusing that. And it's not like a fun gimmick thing like it was when it was first found out, where it was just like, oh, this is fun, this is cool, we could do this. No, this is every single time a Wolverine is getting that jump pack, then they don't even have to stay rocket. Like, at least make them stay rocket to keep the jump pack. They don't even have to stay rocket. He gets to keep it. Then he gets to go route to a tank, a Groot or whatever, a Wolverine, a Peni, doesn't matter. And then he gets to jump midair and just take them all the way back to his team. And there's no counterplay to it. Like, there's nothing you can do to stop it. I mean, if you're very, very specific in a very small interval, but the Wolverine gets to just do it for free. Most of the time, if you cancel his grab, he still gets to keep the jump and then just go back for it again. And eventually he's just going to kidnap your tank and they're not going to be able to do anything about it. I don't think that that's particularly fair. I think that his ultimate might be a bit too strong. Maybe it's good that it's strong. Once again, I'm in this weird spot with Ironman and Wolverine ultimates. They're like capable of countering support ultimates or getting value in spite of them. I think that that's probably good when these ultimates are so strong. I think a better solution would just be to make these ultimates weaker across the board, but you would also have to make all ultimates weaker across the board. Probably a good thing, but that's not really what this video is about. I do also think that perhaps you could reduce the amount of rage he gets. Another big one is probably just reduce his HP. I think giving him a crazy amount of HP and then giving him an over health of HP after the fact is a bit too much as well. It makes it really hard to punish the character. So basically, Wolverine just does a little bit too many things too well. And then with that team up with Rocket, it's just, or not even a team up, just the jump pack with Rocket. It's all just a bit too much, in my opinion. It pushes this character really high over the edge. He's a really hard counter character. There is some merit to him because he does counter some of these oppressive, like triple tank strategies, but I really do think that there's enough counters to that, and you can still keep Wolverine as a counter to that without making him just like one of the best DPS in the game against one tank, two tank, three tank. It doesn't matter. He's gonna get squishies too. He's really hard to kill. So yeah, I would say overall he does need a nerf here or there. Mr. Fantastic, I think Mr. Fantastic's in a good spot. I think he's really strong. I think he's really, really strong. There's someone in the top 100 that is really good with him. There's a lot of players that are good with him all over the place, but he's not broken or anything like that. I just think he's good. You play your cycles right and you're really, really hard to kill. He's good at anti-dive. He's good at brawl. I think no change. I think in another more brawly meta, he's also going to be better. So I'm just going to say no change overall. For Moon Knight, I think the changes that they made to Moon Knight were a good thing. The changes that they made to Moon Knight where they gave him more options, more mobility options. It's faster. I think this is all good. I would only say that his team up's a little bit lacking, like going in an invisible dome and then being healed in that dome. The reason that that's kind of lame is because you're in a dome, like a tiny dome. It's like, where am I? Where am I? Oh yeah, I'm in this one little tiny dome. Like, if you're gonna give him invisibility, let him go fully invisible, like Halo invisible. You know what I'm saying? Like, not a bubble of invisibility. Give him like, you know, the slight translucent effect where he can run around and he's like almost completely invisible, or if he's stationary, he is completely invisible. Give him something like that. Don't be like, oh, he's hiding invisibly in this circle that you know exactly where it's at. It's like, what the hell is that? Or give him a completely different team up, I would say. But I think overall his kit is fine. It's fine. Namor, of course, I'm gonna say team up change. I think it's really time to move Namor away from this second squid thing. Like, if you want to give Namor a team up, let's give him something else unique, something else interesting. Let's not give him, oh, he's going to throw his normal squid and then he's going to throw his ice squid. He's going to throw his normal squid and he's going to throw his gamma squid. Oh, he's going to throw his normal squid, now he's going to throw his flaming squid. Like, that's like, what the fuck is this? like, let's give him something else. Either make him stand on his own 2 feet without a team up and then just maybe buff him to where he's reasonable without a team up, if you want to do that. Or give him a completely different type of team up that he doesn't absolutely need and still do some of those buffs. So I think team up change is the big one. He's been tied to team ups for basically his entire creation. Let's move him away from some of that. Next, we have Psylocke. For me, Psylocke, I think Psylocke is no change. I think that there's a world, I think Magneto should get removed from the team up, but Psylocke actually could utilize the team up with Everfrost. I think that's fine. I think Psylocke did get a nerf that kind of hit her where it was needed and it put her back in line and overall, I think she's in a good spot. She's strong, not completely busted, but good. I'm going to put her in the no change department. I think a character like Psylocke being good is good for the game. She's a flexible character that is good against a lot of these divers like Hawkeye, and she has good game against Helas, and she could be okay against flyers. So I'm going to put her no change. I think she's just a healthy character for the game as long as she's not too overtuned. I don't think she's too overtuned right now. Scarlet Witch, yeah, I mean, overall, fine character. Let's give her a team up change. Right now, I really think that Scarlet Witch is mainly playable because of the team up. So I'm going to say team up change, but I'm also going to say buff. I would like a world where when Scarlet Witch fades or ults or both, it's a bit faster. Right now, Scarlet Witch is super dependent on the team up, which I'm suggesting we change and maybe even remove. But let's make it so that she's playable on her own right, not super vulnerable to being shot midair. It's so weird how when she fades, she can't be healed, and she fades a bit too slow. And then in addition to fading too slow, when she ults really slow. She typically needs a bubble, needs some sort of enabler. I think she's just like a much weaker form of like a Ironman ultimate as an example. So maybe some buffs there as well. Just in the movement speed of the ultimate would be cool. So some small buffs here and there. We can't go crazy, but you know, just some small buffs I think would be safe. Spider-Man, I think he's in a reasonable spot actually. I mean, Spider-Man players will make this character work like no matter what. Like they'll play him no matter what. And the Venom team up didn't completely kill the character. It definitely took away some of the easier engagements on the character. But Spider-Man just has a lot of counterplay with things, right? He can pull people in, he can pull people out, he can deny ultimates. He has a really powerful ultimate himself. I think he's good. I think he's fine. I don't really think that there's a world where you should just super buff the character, and he's not unplayable either. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in the no change department. This one might be a hot take. Maybe some people think he deserves a little plus or minus. Let me know how you feel about Spider-Man down below. I personally think that he's reasonable with a good amount of counters, a good amount of counterplay, and I think he's fine. Squirrel Girl is a really interesting character because I think that a lot of people, especially in the lower ranks, just hate this character. And in the higher ranks, this character gets farmed and feasted on by, you know, things like Psylocke, things like Star-Lord, things that hunt her, target her, right? And I think that the interesting thing is that her team up is really strong. So like the team up with Spider-Man, which she gets to rope somebody and put them in like an AoE stun. It's actually one of the most powerful, you know, offensive team ups in the game. It's just very rare that you get a Squirrel Girl Spider-Man. In fact, if you queued up into a game and you saw it's insta-locking Squirrel Girl Spider-Man, you might ult F4. you might like, fuck this, I'm gone. I would like to see a team up with Squirrel Girl that is easier to set up. So a team up with her and a tank, or her and a meta support. So like maybe her and Luna. Instead of giving like Hawkeye, like a powerful DPS to team up, or Namor, why not give it to some of these more niche DPS, you know? And the interesting way to balance it is like we see in low elo, right? That's where Squirrel Girl really dominates. That's where she really dominates, right? And the supports that are played down there aren't really like Luna Snow or like Loki or Adam. It's supports like Rocket and supports like Cloak and Dagger. So how we can offset that is give Squirrel Girl like a powerful synergy, but kind of paywall it or gate it behind a mechanically difficult support. So what you could do there is like an Adam Squirrel Girl synergy or a Luna Squirrel Girl synergy. So the thing is, while Squirrel Girl, and then you could bounce it around kind of around that synergy. So like when Squirrel Girl starts to fall off in the higher elos because people counter her better, she has a team up with some of these higher skill centric characters, but in the lower elos, you're not going to get that as much. And if someone is on, you know, Adam or whatever, it's more of a liability. So then you don't buff Squirrel Girl at the lower ranks. Does that make sense? It's kind of like an interesting way to do it where you're kind of combining lower skill ceiling with higher skill ceiling characters together to create a synergy. I think that's an interesting way to balance. It's a fun way to balance. And yeah, so I'm going to put it in the team up change. So now we're moving on to Star-Lord, and I'm actually going to skip here a second. I'm going to skip a second for you because I'm going to talk about Star-Lord, Mantis, and Adam Warlock all together. So the first thing is no res comp. Like, we need to get rid of res. I'm just going to say no res comp here. So I'm just going to throw these three characters in there, but I need to talk about them a little bit more deeply. So the problem with buffing Adam and buffing Mantis is I've talked about this before. The team up is too strong. It's the same way with Namor, where it's like when these team ups are too powerful for too long, especially, it's hard to make Namor strong without the team up, because then he's busted with the team up, right? It's hard to make Mantis, Adam, and Star-Lord super strong without the team up, because then they're super busted with the team up. So in Star-Lord's case, that's not really that bad, because I think Star-Lord's actually fine even without the team up. I think Star-Lord is fine. I think there's a world where he gets a completely different team up, he gets removed from the res comp. I think it's time to retire the res comp, in my opinion. And then after the res comp is gone, we could do some pretty interesting things. I think with Mantis, we can revert all of her movement, bring her back to 275. In my opinion, that's the way to go. Now with Mantis in particular, I think that we bring back her movement speed, bring her and revert a lot of the changes that they made, bring her back to the peak form of Mantis. Maybe that even means increasing her damage, increasing her heals, whatever that means. Maybe make her more reliable as a second support. You could even buff her ultimate if you wanted to, or make it so that her ultimate is faster to charge. I think that her ultimate is a clear step below ultimates like Cloak and Dagger, Luna Snow, Loki, Invisible Woman, but it's just as hard to build it. Like, I mean, Cloak and Daggers are beating you by a mile. So to me, it doesn't make sense for an ultimate that should be able to be used offensively and aggressively to be so much worse. Like how Ultron is not as powerful as like a Luna Snow ultimate, right? But he gets it so much faster. I think you should make it easier for a Mantis to get ult, and then increase her movement speed so she could roam more. So those are the changes I would do at the cost of removing res comp. And then for Adam, I think you could do like a lot of different things. I think for one, his soul bond cooldown is way too long now at 30 seconds. I would bring that back down, and you could do that pretty safely. That's probably the only major thing that you would need to do is bring that down. You could also give him more packs potentially. I think getting headshots that reduce the cooldown is still good. I just think that with the res comp, it's too strong. So take away the res comp and then enable the character a bit more. That's what I would really do. So basically, no res comp, and then buffs to both these characters, and then probably no change / add a team up to Star-Lord is what I would really do. For Storm. So it's weird because I know that the Jeff NATO just came out. You probably keep it, right? Probably keep it. And if that's the case, we just keep no change. I think there's only two things that you should really do with Storm. You should either not change her at all, keep the synergy, keep the team up. There are ways to counter the team up, and I actually have a counter video going out that will tell you how to deny them and how to shut them down. But specifically with Storm, I think if the team up is deemed like, oh, it's new enough, it's fresh enough, let's just keep it, I think you could do no change on that. The other thing that you could do is just get rid of that team up and then completely replace it. Maybe there are a lot of you that think it's too powerful, too broken, so you would rather see it. I think after the recent nerfs that we've seen to it, it is more in line with a reasonable ultimate, even if it is powerful, and it is a way to deal with some of these really powerful defensive ultimates. But yeah, so either a team up change or no change would be my vote. I think you could make an argument that we keep it a little bit longer. Maybe we just reduce some of it, change it a little bit, nerf it slightly. Punisher is freaking strong. Punisher is really, really strong. Is he too strong though? That's the question. I'm not sure. I think that Punisher is really, really strong, and he's just really good all around. He has good game against a lot of these pokers. He has good game with the flyers. I think he's almost a necessary evil against some of these flyers. I don't want to see a world where Punisher is too weak and too impossible to play. I really am kind of on the fence here, but I would say no change actually makes sense for the character. Maybe you think he's too powerful. Maybe you think he's too broken. I do think he's really, really strong, right? But I don't think he's more powerful than some of these other characters like Hela and Ironman and, you know, some of these powerful strategies. So I'm a little on the fence. I will say that maybe his shotgun is too strong, especially for countering dive characters. Like if we want to see more dive centric characters, the fact that Punisher has a powerful shotgun and he has more health now is a bit much. So maybe small nerfs to the character, small nerf to the shotgun, small nerf to his survivability, small nerf to his cooldown on his smoke grenade, just the small stuff. Don't change his ultimate, don't change his primary, and I honestly don't even know if you should change him at all. I'm a little on the fence here. This one's a hard one. Let me know what you think down below. Bucky, of course we need to buff Bucky. I really do think that they should make it easily double is fast to get his ultimate. No, I'm just kidding. All right, we're doing team up. Team up change is the big one for Bucky. I think Bucky's actually in an okay spot. I think he's in a fine spot. He's kind of jack of all trades. He's good in a lot of things, against a lot of things, but he's not great. Like he can fight an Iron Man if you hit your cone. He can fight a Hela if you hit your shots. Like he can deny dives. Like, there's a lot of things he can do, maybe not the best, but he still has a powerful ultimate. He still has a good matchup against notably Loki, and he's just a fine DPS. Like, he's good all around. I just really think that the team up with Cap, same thing that we talked about, is kind of the weird thing. Obviously the ammo overdrive was way better, but it was also way broken. So what we need to kind of find is some other type of team up. I like the feel of the team up with Cap. I just think that the team up is just weird because they're just very anti-synergistic, right? Because either you're playing a weird composition where you have like a frontline tank like Mag with the Cap that is just like not perfectly working together, but it's fine. And then you have this really cool combo. Or you're playing like a dive composition and you're not a diver. So it's just kind of weird. So I think overall, I would say the team up change is the only thing that needs to be changed on Bucky. Other than that, I don't think he needs any major changes. Cloak and Dagger. So for Cloak and Dagger, this one might be a hot take. I think that they need to nerf Cloak and Dagger, but also buff her. So maybe a rework is more in line. I think there's a lot of things about Cloak and Dagger that they should buff. Abilities, cooldowns, damage. The main nerf contention I have is how fast Cloak and Dagger is building ultimate, because right now it's pretty much faster than any other character. Like, Cloak and Daggers are getting ultimate so fast, almost too fast. We're seeing it even in pro play, but in ranked play as well. Just a character that gets ultimate just at that rate and a really powerful survival ultimate, I think is a bit too much. Make the ult cost a little bit more, but give them some slight of compliment, you know, some other buffs to kind of offset that. Take some of the power in her kit away from her ultimate. You're going to see that as a common theme in a second when I talk about a lot of these supports where the ultimates are a little bit too, you know, they're too strong. Too much of their powers in their ultimates. Invisible Woman, it's weird because I think Invisible Woman is kind of like the standard. I think Invisible Woman is like the right amount of power in her ultimate. It's not completely busted. There are ways to counter. You could pull her out of it. Like with Wolverine, she's really telegraphed, so you could eat her with Jeff or hit her with Iron Man. You know, there's ways to shut that down, and it doesn't last forever. So it's more reasonable, in my opinion, than some of these other ultimates, and it doesn't build nearly as fast as like a Cloak and Dagger ultimate. So I'm gonna say no change. This one might be a little controversial, but I think no change. And then for Luna, nerf primarily due to her ultimates. I think we bring it down to 10 seconds. I do not think a world where we need a 12-second ultimate. And then on top of that, Luna just gets so much. You know, she just got buffed. She gets powerful team ups all the time. I think Luna can be very, very good, and she could still have the most powerful ultimate. And that's the thing. If her ultimate was 10 seconds, it would still be the most powerful ultimate. Like, take off 2 seconds from it, it's still the most powerful. Take off 2 more, and perhaps we could have a conversation. But let's at least bring it down to 10. Let's take some of that power away from that. She's already doing crazy damage. She has crazy CC. Like, there's so much that is great about her. So we can reel that back down, in my opinion. Reel down the power level of that ultimate. Jeff is a weird one. I think before we kind of got our hands on the changes, a lot of people were very against the Jeff changes, but now people have kind of come around and they're like, yeah, Jeff is fine, is reasonable. I think a lot of people still miss old Jeff. They really do miss old Jeff, and I really do think that the Storm team up is doing some of the heavy lifting. Is really doing some of the heavy lifting for creating a viable world for Jeff. So this is what I would do. I would say, in a world where you keep the Storm synergy, you keep Jeff kind of the same, right? But in a world where you delete the synergy, delete the Jeff NATO, I would like to see Jeff get a couple of buffs to further, you know, push him into, you know, viability, make him a bit better at a duo support composition instead of a triple support composition. I think that would be good. So I'm gonna slap him. I'm gonna slap him in the buff, but I think there's a world where it's, you know, it depends, right? It's either team up change and then buff, or both no changes. So yeah, the Loki one is gonna be a bit hard to place, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I think Loki is the strongest character in the game. I think individually he has the highest carry potential. I think he has such a high ceiling of value and play. Of course, a lot of that has to do with the power of ultimates, being able to copy ultimates, especially Luna ultimate is really, really strong. But he also just provides a lot of offensive damage, and he has really, really good movement abilities, and he has really, really good totem power. So there's a lot about him that's really strong, and I'm not entirely sure what should be done to bring that back in. My only initial suggestion would be shorten the time between him being able to copy and him being forced to start. Because something that happens a lot is a Loki will copy kind of pre-fight, and then, you know, the seconds will tick down, it'll go by, and he's getting a lot of value as the character. And then he pops it into a Luna ult, and then he gets like even longer time, right? And like enemies don't want to push during the pre-time because they know an ult is coming, but then they can't push when he pops it either. So I think when you copy, you should have to use very quickly after the copy. That's the only change that I would do. Other than that, I think he's probably reasonable. But anyone that says that Loki is underpowered or not completely one of the strongest characters in the game is lying. I just think that he kind of has gotten a pass for a long time because of how hard he is to play. Like, he's one of the maybe highest skill ceiling characters in the game. And, you know, maybe we don't have a conversation about changing him now, but I do think at some point in the future, that conversation will need to come up because he is undoubtedly one of the strongest characters in the entire game, maybe the strongest. There's Ultron. It's kind of funny how everyone has moved around on Ultron from being a crazy underpowered character to like now all of a sudden he's really, really strong. And, you know, he is definitely this like catalyst of this flyer comp that has been kind of taking over the meta like quite a bit. So there is a world where they kind of, you know, nerf him a bit so that this flyer composition isn't as strong. Perhaps. I really think that he's actually in a fine state, and I honestly don't know if we've even had enough data throughout the metas to see how he's gonna stand up, because I do think he has weaknesses. Like, he's not really great at enabling a brawl comp, and while he can be okay against dive, he doesn't have any form of crowd control to stop like a hyper dive, you know, like two people are jumping onto one of his other supports and he can't save them like a Loki can, right? He doesn't have crowd control either. So there are weaknesses to his game. I'm gonna say that we wait. We could do a team up change with Iron Man, you know, with the slight nerf or the team up change, or we could just not change him at all. I'm gonna put on the fence of I'm gonna stay on the side of he doesn't need a change right now, but I do think that very quickly he could need a change. Last up is Rocket freaking Raccoon. I honestly think that Rocket is fine. He's fine. His ultimate is counterable, more counterable than some other ultimates. It does build charge. He does have fast building ultimates. He also doesn't die a lot, which I think is one of the reasons why his win rate is so high, because he just has good mobility and he's just hard to kill. I don't really think that we should see any changes to the character besides the change I talked about, where either one of the two, we remove the jump pack from his thing, or we make it so that you have to stay Rocket to keep the jump pack. Those are the two things, because that's mainly because of Wolverine is abusing it, but I just think it went from a gimmick to just something that's too strong. So like you could say no change, you could say nerf, something along those lines. It's just like very minor. Other than that, I don't think any major thing to the character besides the team up change. You know, getting rid of that team up with Peni. I think it would be better if we just give him a completely different team up instead of, you know, enabling that team up or, you know, enabling the Peni team up. I think that would personally be better, but I want to hear what you think. What kind of team up would you like to see on Rocket specifically? Like, what synergy do you want to see? Let me know in the comments down below. But this is my buffs, nerfs, rework, and changes tier list for 3.0. What changes do I want to see in Marvel Rivals? These are the ones I want to see. Is there any big changes that you disagree with? Or is there anything that I missed here? I really want to hear your opinion about it. Of course, this is just my opinion. It is objectively right, but I want to hear, no, I'm just kidding. I want to hear your opinions down below. Thank you so much for coming by. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.